Good morning, folks. Oh, it must have been a rough morning. Welcome to the University of Chicago. We're happy to see you. We're happy to have your children with us. And my guess is that our task for today is to try and explain all of the financial matters that you will be encountering over the next 4 years. My name is Jaime Gonzalez. I am one of the senior assistant directors in the Office of College Aid. And so my function will be financial aid and all of the applications that you did to receive your financial aid decisions. We are located in the Walker Museum, Suite 309. Now, Walker is actually the building that is next to the admissions office, which is in Rosenwald. So just to try and give you a little geography, the address is 1115 East 58th Street. So if you ever want to find us, come and talk to us, that's where we'll be. This is our website. This will be a good resource for you, so make sure that you bookmark this page. It will serve for forms that you may need to complete, and we will begin to add more forms to this site. And it's a good place to get an overall idea of what the aid process is like at Chicago, as well as just information for you to have and for your student to have over the next 4 years. Now, financial aid. So our Office of College Aid, our mission is really to try and make this school affordable to you. We realize that our cost of attendance is quite hefty. Who can tell me what the cost of attendance is here at the University of Chicago? I hear chuckles. I'm getting nervous. It's a lot. I like that. Who can give me the number? I hear 65, I hear 67, go 68. I feel like the auctioneer here. It's sold to about $67,000, $68,000. Yes, you all were in the range there. Now, that includes every possible cost that we could think of what it would cost a student to attend the University of Chicago. So tuition, fees, room and board, those direct expenses, those things that you will hear from my colleague Phyllis in the billing section of this presentation, but also indirect expenses, things like books and supplies, travel allowances. If you're coming from more than about, I think, 150 miles away, we include a nominal travel allowance in your cost of attendance. So if you all are talking and you see slightly different numbers, that's really the reason why those things are that way. And our goal in the aid office is to try and meet that cost of attendance as in partnership with you. And so, how did we make this aid decision? How did we do it? Well, the answer is we made you fill out a lot of applications, a lot of aid applications. So my apologies initially, but it helped us to come up with a financial aid decision. We made you complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. And just a note about the FAFSA. Schools like Chicago utilize the FAFSA simply to determine what kind of federal aid you're eligible for. That is the function of that form here. So if you're eligible for federal grants like the Pell Grant or the Educational Opportunity Grant, or student loans, federal student loans, that's what the form or the FAFSA is utilized for. The other form that I'm sure you all love is called, who can tell me what that other need analysis form is? The CSS profile, and all of you enjoyed filling that one out, right? It's quite daunting. There are quite a few questions, but all of it in an effort to try and determine where a family is in terms of financial status. It also gives us an opportunity to take a look at some different avenues, where families are spending money. Gives you an opportunity to explain some things. And we will look, and we have looked at all of those when coming up with a financial aid decision for you. We also asked you to submit tax returns. So I went through this exercise of letting you know kind of what we collected, just so that you understand that we've collected a lot of information before we made an aid decision. And it's basically, we were trying to come up with an analysis of what we could expect from you as parents in terms of a contribution, an analysis of your income, minus all the taxes and some allowances that are done through the formula, and assets to a much smaller degree. What kind of, if you have other real estate, your home, and trying to come up with a parent contribution that has utilized both of those resources, and something that we would expect from you from year to year. So that parent contribution was derived from those pieces. We also expect students to be a part of this process. And in terms of student assets is really where their contribution is coming from. So in most cases, students will have a savings account. And so we expect them to exhaust that over the 4 years, 25% a year. We also expect them to work during the summer and during the term. So you will see terms like federal work study or student employment. So those are expectations that we look at. And then in some cases, student loans, right? Things like federal Perkins loan, federal Stafford loans, usually the subsidized ones. And together, that's considered, for students in the business, we consider that self-help for students. So if we look at reducing a parent contribution and what we expect from students in terms of their assets and work and borrowing, the difference, right, that $67,000, $68,000 figure minus those pieces, that difference is what we're meeting, is considered your need. That's what we're trying to meet with institutional funds as well as any other free monies, grant funds that you may be eligible for. And in a nutshell, that's really what an aid decision is going to look like. There will be opportunities for, or many of our students bring in outside scholarships. There's national merit scholarships. How do those work into a financial aid decision? Well, often I get questions over during the financial aid season. Well, what happens to these? Do you all just reduce the grant? And thankfully, no, we do not. With outside awards that come in, we basically reduce a student's work and loan expectation first. And then after that, we reduce a student's parent contribution. So students who are bringing in outside scholarships are receiving the full benefit of those scholarships. So I would always encourage your students to keep looking for those outside pieces of scholarships and keep applying for them. Similarly, with National Merit. We are a sponsor of the National Merit Award, and students are guaranteed, if we sponsor them, $2,000 a year. Those students that receive other types of National Merit Awards, if they are limited to the first year, we will renew at least $2,000 over the next 2 to 3 years, whatever the case may be. But the idea is that we understand you've worked hard for these scholarships, and so we will continue those on over the 4 years. Again, similar principle. We'll never reduce the grant or what we've offered you in gift assistance. After we reduced any of the self-help pieces, we then will reduce parental contribution. So I go through that exercise just so that you understand kind of how we work in the Office of College Aid to make this affordable to you. The third point in this slide is appeals. Now, what do we consider an appeal? Well, it can be almost anything that you think we should know. We've gathered a lot of information from you at the get-go to begin with. So these are things that you couldn't fill in the circle, you couldn't explain in the box that profile offers you. These are special circumstances. This is what you'd let us know. And I encourage you, if you think this is something we need to know, please send us in a letter, or if it is a loss of income, we have a form that we'd be happy to send to you. As well as if situations arise over the academic year or throughout the 4 years that you're here. A couple things to remember in terms of the financial aid process itself. Well, obviously, resources, right? Assets are our primary key. Your household size, how many people are in your household, and how many are in college during the year. And so some things that happen over the year, if you have one in college right now, this is your first in college, or there is one that is in college during these 4 years, and there's a second sibling or child that becomes a college student during the same 4 years, that's also a time to get in touch with us. That changes the formula quite a bit. Now, by contrast, students graduating from undergraduate, college also change the formula quite a bit. So these are times to contact us so that we can let you know what's going to happen. So that's how we did it. That's how we came up with your financial aid decision. So what happens next year? What do you think? Same thing. Yes. Yes, we will make you do it all over again. But it's, again, in an effort to make sure that we are analyzing you and your resources in terms of current resources. Now, we make a commitment to families that if your financial situation has not changed, it's relatively the same, that we will offer you relatively the same decision. Now, generally that involves your parent contribution. So your parent contribution remains relatively the same. So what I see most often and in general is that your grant figure climbs just a little bit from year to year because our cost of attendance is going to grow every year and we're always chasing it. So that's what you can expect. But you are right. We will make you do the CSS profile again. We will make you do the FAFSA, ask you for a tax return, and then there will be an additional piece. We will ask returning students to complete an institutional financial aid form. Now, where is that form found? It is an online form these days, okay? And it is found in their portal. So the my.uchicago.edu portal will be the mechanism or the place where you will find all of that information, or where students will find all of that information, not only in terms of renewing their student aid, but in terms of billing, in terms of registration. This is their portal, and they have sole access to it unless they give it to someone else. But that's where you'll find out what forms are needed and what the deadlines are. So parents, a little inside baseball, a little inside information for you. Okay? Round about the end of January, first couple weeks of February, we will begin to send students emails. Check your portal. Your financial aid documents that are required for the next year are now listed there, and begin the process. Okay, so that's when you should talk to them and find out and make sure that they've received our emails, first of all, and that they are proceeding as needed. Basically, we're going to want them to do that university application and then make sure that all those other forms are completed. Okay, so a good time to check in with them. Now, study abroad. Often we have questions about, does your aid follow you abroad? We have many opportunities here at UChicago for studying abroad. We have a couple of centers abroad, and the answer to the question is yes. We will use that program fee that is charged from our study abroad colleagues as part of the financial aid costs when determining the aid. Now, in terms of additional, in general, most of the study abroad cost will exceed sort of our standard cost of attendance for a student living on campus, which is our highest budget. So that excess amount is shared between the university and families. Okay, so it's generally a 50% division. We'll offer more aid, more grant money, about half of that excess, and then we'll expect that students contribute half of any excess. Okay, but the answer is yes. We will look at those costs, and we will offer our financial aid for students and encourage them to study abroad. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about work study or student work. This is the place to find out or to find the listings of jobs that are available on campus. Studentemployment.uchicago.edu. There is a process for students who wish to work. They are not assigned jobs. We believe in the free market. Students will actually have to look at these listings and go out and become employed. You know, talk to the supervisors there and find those jobs. Federal work study is a federal fund, and there will be paperwork, again, on their portals that they'll need to take with them. You know, the job postings are there, the authorization form is on their portal, their I-9 forms, Social Security cards, passport, make sure that they have those. W-2s are sent at the end of the calendar year. So in December, if they worked during the autumn, they'll receive their own W-2s. They are paid directly. So any work they've done, they are paid directly, and the intention of federal work study or student employment is that it pays for their personal expenses, or perhaps a pizza on Saturday, those sorts of expenses. So they get it directly. Those funds are never reflected on a bursar's bill. Sometimes there's a misunderstanding that, oh, they got work study, this I can just deduct from the bill. No, it's really intended for indirect expenses. We have a career advancement. We have career advancement resources, help with resumes and cover letters, as well as internships. Chicago has a very robust program for internships and allowing undergraduates to participate during the 4 years that they're here. So take advantage of that. How can they do that? This is the session, or a couple sessions, that will be offered during this week to students. So I would encourage you to have them attend. Do good, gain experience, get paid. It's offered in this building, downstairs on the first floor in the Max Polewski Cinema. And there's 2 sessions, noon to 1, and then 1:15 to 2:15. It will go over the work study process, but also internships. There will be a couple of offices represented there. Internships, career advancement will be there. And so it's a good session if students are interested in that. And so that's my portion of my talk with you here. I'm going to bring up my colleague, Ms. Phyllis Franks, to discuss Bursar.
Good morning. My name is Phyllis Franks, and I work for the Office of the Bursar. I'm the Student Accounts Manager, and I just want to talk with you all today about what our office does and just give you some additional information to help you better understand the process. So essentially, the billing office, the Office of the Bursar, We are responsible for assessing fees, tuition, room and board, any required fees, and then any payments that are made are applied directly to the student's tuition account, the same account where the fees are assessed. One thing that I should point out with regard to the first year's bills is that the autumn quarter bill will be a little bit different than the winter and spring because it will include the one-time class fee, the $1,128 class fee. For subsequent bills, that charge will not be reflected. The other big difference, which I'm sure a lot of you are aware, the university requires students to have comparable health insurance coverage. And for many of you, the chance to waive that charge, or I should say, you may not have waived the charge before the first bill went out to you. If you have since waived health insurance, you can simply deduct that charge from the bill and pay the difference. And similarly, if you expect other payments that should have been reflected on the bill and they are not, but you know that they're forthcoming, on our website we have an adjustment worksheet where you can plug in those payments against the assessments, the charges, to calculate the correct amount due. I guess the next most important thing are the billing due dates, and as many of you know, the first due date was this past Friday. We understand that there may be payments still in transition, especially from 529 plans or those types of payments, and if you find that the payment has not yet been made, don't panic. You can give us a call. We're happy to work with you and walk through the process and deal with any concerns that you have. Related to that is the tuition payment plan. Some of you may have already registered for the monthly payment plan. We offer two, a 10-month and an 8-month plan, which allows you to spread the cost over 10 months or 8 months. Oh, so sorry. Thank you, Jaime. Oh, I apologize. I should have started here. This picture is of the building where our office is located. Our office is on the 3rd floor of the Barnes & Noble bookstore, and you can come visit us today or anytime. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 until 4, although I have to apologize because the elevator is out of service right now, so you will need to use the stairs until that gets repaired. Okay, now we're on track. So this is what I was talking about earlier, the tuition and billing services and what our office does. You can see the billing due dates. And then I was just talking about the monthly payment plans. So the 10-month plan, unfortunately, that time frame has passed. So it's no longer possible for the current year to sign up for a 10-month monthly payment plan, but you can still sign up for an 8-month plan if you want to spread the quarterly costs over 8 months. If you sign up before the end of this month, that will be fine. If it's beyond that time and you still think that you want to sign up for this type of plan, we just ask that you give us a call and then we can work that out with you. One of the best services that we offer is electronic billing. This allows you to not only receive your bill through the mail, a paper bill, but also electronically. And we refer to that as e-bill. So e-bill also allows you to submit your payments electronically. That's an option, however, you're not required to do so. And each time that a bill is created, you and your child will each receive an email message notifying you that there's a new statement. And the way that your child signs up for this service is through the My UChicago portal. And once your child enrolls in that service, he or she can authorize up to 2 additional payers. And as I said, each of you will receive an email letting you know that there's a statement online for you to view. And you can also pay through that same service, but again, that's an option. Why use eBill? The reasons that we recommend it so highly is that it's easy to use, and if you misplace your paper bill, you can always access the statement 24/7. And it's easy for students to access as well, and you can print the bill from the same site. And it's also very safe and secure. Payment information. We have several different payment options. The most commonly used one is with the bill stub. And you'll notice on the bill stub that the address is listed on the slide, 75 Remittance Drive. I just want to point out that this is a lockbox. There isn't a person there. So if you're mailing to that address, always try to include the bill stub. Otherwise, additional time will be added to the process because those payments then get passed along to us, to the physical address in the bookstore building, and it will just add a couple of days in processing. But all of our payments are processed through the Maroon Financial Credit Union. You can go there in person and make a payment, receive a receipt, and we see those payments in real time. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also pay through the e-bill system, or you can make a one-time payment through our website from a checking or savings account. You will only need your banking information in order to make that one-time payment. In addition, if you are making international payments, we have a service called peer transfer, and there are no fees associated with this service, and you can pay from many different countries, again, 24/7. We also have a wire payment, a US wire transfer option, and that detailed information is listed on our website in terms of the bank account number, etc. And also related to this topic are refunds. So in some cases, parents are borrowing a PLUS loan to cover not only the assessments billed through our office, but in some cases, parents are borrowing or students are borrowing to cover the costs of indirect charges, such as books and personal expenses. And the way that our refund process works is that if the cause of the overpayment on the account is due to a student loan, then our system will automatically generate that refund to the student. The student can either receive the refund through direct deposit by simply registering online. It just takes a few simple steps, and then that process is speeded up that much more, and the funds are direct deposited into that account. If the student has not enrolled in direct deposit, then they will receive a paper check. So if the overpayment is not due to a student loan and it's due to a PLUS loan, a Parent PLUS loan, or 529 plan, or a payment that you made, we process those manually and on a daily basis. If you or your child want to speed that refund process up, there are many different ways for requesting the refund. On our website, there's an electronic form that the student can submit asking for that refund, or he or she can come into our office and ask for the refund, or you can send an email message directly to our office. So that's all that I have for you today. We have another presenter afterwards, and if you have questions once the presentation is done, we'll be happy to entertain any questions that you have. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague Norma Carmona. She's the Director of the Student Loan Administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. So yes, I am Norma Carmona, and I'm Director of the Student Loan Administration Office. If you'll notice the picture, it's exactly the same as Phyllis's a few minutes ago. Our office is also located in the bookstore building. That's where the Barnes & Noble and the Starbucks is at. We're located on the 4th floor, so yes, the climb up to our office right now is painful because of the elevator not working. But our email and website is on the screen, as you can see right now. So what do we do? So the Student Loan Administration Office is responsible for executing, and that's not the only thing we do, but executing documents for disbursement of federal Perkins loans. So as my colleague Jaime said, once the college aid sends your son or daughter an award decision, then our office notifies students of the next steps to process their federal Perkins loan. Okay. One of the things that I should point out to you is if you wish to adjust the federal Perkins loan award that was awarded to your son or daughter, you do need to contact the college aid office. Okay. So a federal Perkins loan, just to give you a few bits of information regarding the terms of this type of a loan, it is a federal loan. It's administered by the Student Loan Administration from the point that that money is dispersed to your student all the way up to repayment on that loan. So we actually follow your student even after graduation, right? The interest rate on a federal Perkins loan is 5%. That's fixed interest, and that interest is calculated, it's simple interest calculated on the unpaid balance of that loan. No origination fees are deducted from each quarterly disbursement of that federal Perkins loan to your son or daughter's tuition account. And by the way, the funds are dispersed quarterly. There is a 9-month grace period, which is interest-free when your son or daughter graduates from the school or leaves the school. So 4 years from now, the grace period begins on that loan, and during that 9 months, no interest is accruing on that loan, okay? Now, although we service mainly the federal Perkins loans, I am going to give you information about the federal direct Stafford loans. The subsidized and unsubsidized Stafford loans currently have an interest of 4.66%, and that's from July 1st of 2014 to June 30th of 2015, okay? Interest rates change annually, and that's determined by the federal government. They tell us what to charge, okay? Stafford loans have an origination fee, and it's deducted each quarter from each disbursement that your son or daughter gets, and it's 1.073 on a Stafford loan, okay? Additionally, if you borrowed or were awarded a Federal Plus loan, that's a parent loan to an undergraduate, that interest rate is 7.21%, okay? Again, it's annual interest. That changes July 1st. This one is current for July 1st of 2014 to June 30th of 2015. And again, origination fees are deducted each quarter from each disbursement that your son or daughter gets at 4.292%. Okay? One of the things that I want to point out is that under a Stafford loan, again, 4 years from now, when your son or daughter is graduating, there's a 6-month grace period on that loan. Stafford loans may incur interest during that 6-month grace period. So I want to point out to you all that even though that interest rate is slightly lower on the Stafford loan versus the Perkins loan, interest is accruing at graduation for your student versus the Perkins loan, which doesn't accrue interest during that 9-month grace period. Yes?
Is any interest accruing prior to graduation?
No interest on the federal Perkins loan is accruing prior to graduation, okay? On the Plus loans, it's accruing at disbursement, okay? On the Stafford loans, during the time that the student is in school, on the subsidized Stafford loan, interest isn't accruing. On the unsubsidized, it accrues at disbursement. Is that clear? I'm sorry, it's a little confusing. Okay. Yes?
We can't pick and choose, right? You decide what you get.
Yes. Well,
If we don't qualify for Perkins, you push us to one side. Right?
that's correct. Okay. So my point, I'm going to run through the presentation, and then I'll take questions at the end if you don't mind. So my point to this is some of you have been contacting our office to cancel the Perkins loan. So I think you should think very clearly, very carefully before canceling that Perkins loan in terms of taking a Stafford instead of a Perkins, okay? So in order to have that federal Perkins loan dispersed to your son or daughter's tuition account, they need to do three things. They should have completed an entrance counseling session. That's online, okay? And we have notified students through an email on the steps that they need to take, so your son or daughter should have received this already. There's also a reference form that they had to complete, okay? And then the last piece of it is the student must sign in person at the Student Loan Administration office a promissory note. Okay, some of you were in our office yesterday. We were open from 1 to 4, but our elevator was closed, was broken at 2, so we didn't see too many people after that. But the student can come up and sign this week and even after the first week of the quarter if they haven't signed at any time. No appointment is necessary, just come on up and sign. Okay? Once these three pieces of documentation have been completed, then the first day of the quarter, Perkins loan funds will be dispersed to the student's tuition account, as well as your Stafford loans, as well as the PLUS loans. So all of these loans get applied to the student's tuition account the first day of the quarter. On the PLUS loan, if there's a credit balance as a result of that PLUS loan being applied to the tuition account, that credit balance is refunded to the parent, okay? If you want to make any special requests about having that refund sent to your son or daughter or to be held over for the following quarter, you should contact Phyllis's office at her contact information, and they will take care of handling that special request for you. I'm going to turn it over to Jaime, and we're open to questions at this point. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I guess I'm your MC for this portion of the program. Questions? Yes.
When I got the first bill, it didn't reflect aid award, and it was subject to verification.
Yes, good question. Thank you. The question is the receipt of the first bill with no aid on it. And the issue seemed to be verification. What happens in applying, when completing the FAFSA, is you become subject to what the Department of Education calls being selected for verification. Now, verification is a process that's placed on the institutions, on the schools, to verify information that you supplied on the FAFSA. And we cannot disperse aid until that verification has been completed. So what we've received many calls about verification, and it does take a little time to go through. But if you have a financial aid decision, then what we were instructing parents to do is to simply deduct those grant figures that were on your aid decision for the autumn quarter and pay the difference. And you would be completely compliant. Phyllis's office would not penalize you for late payment if there was a difference afterwards. And if so, then we would certainly advocate for you for any of those issues.
When will that be all done?
We're working through them steadily. Yes?
Does each student have to go up to the church and sign for either the Perkins or the sub loan?
In terms of student loans, the Perkins loan is the only loan that requires a student to visit Norma's office to complete the master promissory note. Federal Stafford loans are actually done online. Studentloans.gov is the website to complete the process there for federal Stafford loans or federal PLUS loans.
And Jaime, I want to mention that our office is on the 4th floor of the bookstore building, just so you know, to sign that Perkins prom note. Okay?
Yes.
What's the is TIMS or TMS tuition management system, is that e-billing, is that the same thing?
No, TMS, Tuition Management Services, that's the monthly payment plan. And that's the one where you could have signed up for either a 10 or an 8-month plan. But e-bill, electronic billing, that's a service that provided by our office where you can receive your bills electronically and you can make electronic payments through that same portal.
And is there any, looks like there's just $120, there's no interest or anything else with TMS, or is it?
Yes, the question is, with the monthly payment plan, TMS, Tuition Management Services, is there a fee? And there is a fee of $90, or there was a fee of $90 for the 10-month plan, $120 for the 8-month plan, but there is no interest or any other fees.
If you forego this year, subsidized or unsubsidized loans, are they part of the package next year? Can you have the same thing offered you, or that depends completely on your CSS and your tax?
The question is applying for aid next year in terms of if you did not take student loans this year, do they come back in subsequent years? The answer is yes, in that you reapply every year for financial aid, and we will determine the aid using all of those pieces, and so the loans can be part of that process for the year. Those levels climb a little bit in terms of what students are eligible for, but it will be a static aid decision for that year. In other words, you can't lump first year loans into the second year. Yes?
What was the qualification for the Perkins loan? That seems to be the most beneficial.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
What are the qualifications for Perkins loans? That seems to be the most beneficial.
The qualifications for the Perkins loan is the question. Essentially, Perkins loan, along with federal work study, fall under the umbrella of campus-based aid. So these are funds that are offered to each campus, and then we have to dole them out according to, first of all, the amount of money that we have, and it's required to go to the neediest of families. And so often, you may not see Perkins eligibility because it really is something that we weren't able to dole out to everybody. So and unfortunately, it isn't offered to everybody, which is why the subsidized programs are there under the federal direct programs. In the back.
Could you address 529 plans that might be held by grandparents? How does that come into play on the financial aid? Does the student have to include that as income? Is that going to then reduce financial aid that they would get in the future? How does all that work?
In terms of, the question is about 529 plans that are not held by a parent. So 529 plans are generally taken out by parents with students as beneficiaries. Those plans are considered much more generously in the financial aid process because they're held by the parent and they're placed in a parent's asset piece. When they're held by someone other than a parent, that could be grandparent or anyone else that's opened up an account for a student, that does become a student asset, subject to the 25% a year expectation from it. So it is a student asset. Yes?
Most everything you talk about is need-based. What about the loans?
The question is, we talked about need-based aid, is what happens with merit-based aid. Now my colleagues, or our colleagues, in our Office of Admission handled all of the merit awards during the first year. And so the process really is only during the enrollment cycle in the first year and then renewed for the 4 years. So the one opportunity to receive merit awards from the University of Chicago has happened already. And that was part of that process. The merit awards are done during the enrollment process, so prior to the May 1 commitment. So once that's over, then they are done. Yes?
Can you summarize, please, just how you do your 529 plan, assuming it's in the parent's name, and then what are your recommendations? Do you spend that now, or do you use it?
529 plans that are parent-owned, essentially, for students they are part of the asset mix. So after allowances are made for household size, emergencies, then the difference, the equity amount, is assessed somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5%. And that will carry on. Right, or any other asset. That's on the asset portion. So other real estate, home, that sort of thing, cash savings, things like that. Yes?
Are there opportunities for the students to like build relationships, get scholarships within college once they're here?
Are there opportunities for scholarships within the office? There aren't very many departmental scholarships. Most of the merit award and most of the aid is done initially in the first year, especially with merit. So there may be one or two that I can think of over the 15 years that I was here. They're usually very specific, and the departments will let students know, but very, very few. Yes?
So if you have two students in college, two different colleges, how does that work in a small language group? Certainly qualify for aid. How do you guys divide it out?
In terms of the formulas that are used, in general, provided that the students are in similar institutions and you're paying similar amounts, the deviation is about 60% of the contribution you see with two in college. That's 60% of the total of 100 of what we would have used for one student in college. Does that make sense? In other words, that the contribution is now being shared by two that are in an undergraduate institution at the same time. And so if one graduates, then that contribution grows because then 100% is expected for that one student. So three would actually divide that up a little bit more.
Right. My question is, so let's say you come up with some number.
Okay.
How will you and the other college divide it up? Why?
How do we don't care how the other college does. This is how we have determined your parent contribution to be. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the other college wants. Yes? I'm going to let Norma take care of the student. Okay, let's do the loan question first.
Okay, so the answer to the question is the origination fees are deducted from each quarterly disbursement that the student is to be getting. So if the student's getting $1,000 and the fee is $50, they're going to get $950 applied to their tuition account. So it's deducted.
Deducted prior to disbursement.
Right.
Now, in terms of merit awards and the National Merit Award, if we have sponsored the award, it's a 4-year award for $2,000. And so, as the only issue I would, or the only tip I would add, is that make sure that you are renewing that with National Merit every year. There is a form that will be done, that needs to be done with them every year, so that they appear on our roster and that we receive the check. Yeah. Or they might contact the student automatically, but it's something to sort of keep in mind.
I may.
Oh, yes. Do we have things like a full ride scholarship at UChicago? Well, we have full tuition scholarships at UChicago that are, for the most part, locally based. Yes, so it's mostly full tuition scholarships. Behind, yes.
Does total amount of student loan debt factor in subsequent years?
Total amount of student loan debt factor into the aid decision. It's important to remember that when we came up with student loans, the intention was that this is an expectation. So, for example, a parent loan. We usually do not take that into account because that, in general, those parent loans were expected already as part of that year's parent contribution. So, unfortunately, no. Perhaps on a special circumstance, if something else is going on, we'd love to at least take a look at it. Yes?
So if
If you don't qualify for federal loans, now everyone should at least qualify, every student should at least qualify for a federal Stafford loan. If there is no need that we can find in terms of the subsidy, the subsidized Stafford loan, then they should automatically revert to the unsubsidized Stafford loan. But combined, you can borrow unsubsidized and federal plus if need be. It's a process that's actually done online. All the federal direct loans, excluding the Perkins, are done through a website called studentloans.gov, right? Yeah. And you need your FAFSA PIN to access it. So if you're taking a plus loan, you need the PIN that you use to sign as a parent and access that as a parent. Students will use their PIN that they used and access it as a student for the Stafford loans. In the back. Renewing financial aid decisions. As I mentioned, the renewal notices will go out usually at the first couple weeks of February. They are due back about mid-May, and we make those decisions over the summer.
And then the second question, what is the name of the form for change of income?
Change of income?
If there's a change, if there's a drop in income for medical reasons or drop off.
In terms of loss of income, it's actually called the loss of income form. Contact our office and we'll get it to you.
Is it online or?
Contact our office. Yes. Average parent contribution. Well, you got me there because they're so customized per family. Average grant is about $39,000. Now, remember, that's going to include everyone who's applied for aid and who hasn't applied for aid. But in terms of that, but you stumped me with that one. Thanks. I'm going to have to go back and look that one. Yes.
Hi. In terms for study abroad, I attended study abroad before. It mentioned that the room, board, and food is included in part of, let's say, we get the financial aid. But as far as travel, let's say the airfare is on parents.
The question is about study abroad. Yes, there's something called a program fee when students study abroad, and that generally includes your room and sometimes some board. If whatever is lacking in a board cost, because that's generally what it is, we actually impute some amount so that we build this to include as much of the cost of, or as much as we expect of the cost for a study abroad program. But there are two expenses that are not covered by aid. Those are your transportation to and from the country, as well as the deposit that's required by study abroad. So those are fully fully the student's responsibility.
So that means before we consider study abroad, we have to see whether we can afford that piece.
That's correct.
There's no evaluation, like, again, whether we can get.
Correct. Yes, the family and the student will incur those two costs for studying abroad. Yes.
Yeah, regarding federal, if family decide take or not take, for the university itself or for the family, if they decide or not, family decide not take it, will that affect the normal the university will get next year or not? Or
Let me repeat the question just to make sure I understand it. So if you don't take a student loan in the current year, will that penalize you in the following year? Is that?
Yeah, for the family, also for the university, I would say, the available loan, the federal, will that be reduced or what?
Well, it doesn't, it really, if whether you take the loan that we expect you to take or not, will not affect the decision for the subsequent year.
Not for the school week either.
Right, yeah. For us, it's simply a new application and a new set of circumstances.
The other question is, if the parents are separated, of course, and of course, they would have two distinct individual income. How do you combine, how do you decide on as far as the financial aid for the students?
Well, how we do it is similarly in terms of the question is about divorced parents or separated parents and the two incomes. It's a similar process on both sides. It's just two streams, two income streams, two asset streams that we combine the contributions. Probably without getting into too much detail, there's no other way to explain it other than that.
Say one is extremely high, but is not the student that is leaving Cliff. Then would that a big part of the consideration of lowering the financial aid?
In terms of both parents, it's always the expectation that both biological parents will contribute to the financial aid process, in respective to where they're able to. So yes, if there is someone who has more income, then more will be expected from them than the other who may not.
Jaime.
In the back, yes. The question's about outside scholarships, right? In terms of there are many free scholarship search engines on our website. We will link you to them. FastWeb, the College Board has one. There's also a local one. So if you're an Illinois resident, College Zone or the Illinois Student Assistance Commission also has a local scholarship search engine.
Jaime, there's a question over here. Yeah.
Is service as a resident advisor considered work study and therefore applied indirectly to the student's income, or is it discounted because of the room and board? I understand it's paid for.
In terms of the questions about being a resident advisor, resident advisors receive the benefit of a waiver of their room and board. And so that amount is considered an outside scholarship in terms of the financial aid process, and so filters through in that way.
Yeah, regarding the payment, when I did not receive any notification email saying you received that full payment. Is that something you send out or is it not sent out?
No, we don't send receipts per se, but on subsequent bills, you would see your payment.
Just sometimes, just like for some parents, you may have kids, you expect kids to pay, your student to pay a little bit about, if you haven't already paid, you may not know when students just forgot or not. Is there any way you can let the parents know, the parents can remind the kids, you still forgot it, but anyway, it's not.
Well, what you can do is have your child enroll in e-bill, electronic billing, and then each of you will receive the bill. Now, your child can see his current balance through the My UChicago portal, but the payments that you make, the parents make, you would see that on the subsequent bill. But are you asking what happens if the student makes the payment?
We just say when the university may inform the parent of the better. Sometimes the parent may go there, say, hey, you forgot you just one day, have you paid your bill yet? Just say that. Because some kids may just forgot,
They could check
not
their
that
email,
intentionally.
sign up
And
to get the
from
bill.
an administration point of view, give the parents a little bit information. They can help remind the kids. Some kids have forgot.
Right. Well, I think e-bill is the best thing, and that way both of you will So the way that that works is your child enrolls in electronic billing, e-bill, and then they authorize you, the parent, as a secondary payer. And every time a bill is created, then each of you receives an email message, and you too have access to the bill.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you have a question?
Yes, sir. My question was, how easy or difficult is it for the kid to go out and get a work study job if they don't get to do well or those activities they have to practice?
In terms of the questions about federal or work study and finding a job on campus and how easy it is, I think it's important to remember that we know they're students. We know they're here to be students. They're not here to work. You know, our expectation in terms of student employment, and we have a couple in the office, is about 10 to 12 hours a week. I mean, they are here to study. If they tell us they have a final, okay, well then go do the final. You know, or a paper due or whatever. And I think that's probably the sentiment. It's a good time to sort of gain those skills where you get into an interview situation, you talk, you know, you begin that process. And I think that's the understanding that most of our employers will have for students. So when they're ready and they feel like they can take on 10 to 12 hours, that's when they should, you know, visit those lists and complete those forms and begin that process. So I don't think they're expecting, you know, perfect interview skills. This is how that's going to happen. Yes. I believe that this session's being recorded and will be made available online via the parents' website. My pleasure. I'm going to let folks go because it's afternoon. If you have questions, we'll be here.